All right, everybody, how are we doing today? Welcome back to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Today is March 19th. Hope everyone's having a good day. Today is day one of March Madness. It is the first four, and I knew you guys have been waiting for it. I'm finally doing it. Welcome to the March Madness video, a tutorial is what we're calling it this year, hosted by myself, Robbie Basel. And I'm going to go through every pick that I have, every sleeper, dark horse, big name team that you want to look at. I got you. So what I'm going to do, hopefully this isn't totally scuffed. I'm going to share my screen, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're on ESPN. This might be a little bit scuffed, but listen, at the end of the day, this should probably work. So here we go. What is the bracket looking like? So we're going to go region by region today. We'll start with the East region, which is on your left-hand side. So I'll be able to actually keep it the way it is. So we're going to start off with UConn, the number one seed. Actually, before we go into the bracket, let me go into some of the things I didn't like about this year's March Madness tournament. So let me just change course here. We're going to go back to full screen because there's some things I need to address before I even think about making my picks this year. What were my biggest takeaways from March Madness this year? The bracket as a whole. I'm looking at my paper bracket. I do have one right next to me as well, so if I have to redo the video, I'll write it all down on this. But what I don't like, the things I didn't like, the disrespect to the Mountain West. They got a lot of teams. They did get a lot of teams, and they deserve to get a lot of teams. You're talking about squads like San Diego State, New Mexico, who won the Mountain West at the very end. You're talking about a couple other clubs, Nevada. That's a very good squad right there. Like just to name a few, Boise State, Colorado State. Like that's a couple of solid teams that could make some decent amount of noise. They got a lot of them got underseeded, and the one that's like going at me the most, I don't know. There's a couple of them got underseeded. New Mexico at an 11, I thought was fair. San Diego State as a 5, okay, that's not awful. What could get worse? I don't. I think with the way they received, first of all, that conference played so well this year. I think they should have been a little higher seed, which brings me to my next point. Why is FAU an 8? What did they do? They should be a 10. They should be having to move down. Drake could possibly be moved up higher. The Mountain West could get a little bit more love. I don't like that FAU is an 8 seed. I think they should have gotten in. I had them as one of my last 4 teams in on the last day. So that is where we're at with that. FAU is an 8. I don't like that. Other big pointers. The not as much love as the Big East thought they were going to get. Now, I did not like the play from the Big East this year. There was no dominant team other than UConn this year. Now, you're probably saying, Robbie, why are you saying that? Look how many teams the Mountain West got. Should the Big East have gotten a little bit more love? Maybe. And I think there's a couple teams that you could replace with said Big East team. I'm talking about clubs. Let's look at the paper bracket here. I'm talking about a team like Virginia, who lost to North Carolina State, who are one of the bigger storylines entering this tournament. I don't think Virginia should have gone in. I like that Colorado made it. Boise State was really low, which causes the question, what did FAU even do? They went 25-8. Cool. Anything else? Not really. So, which Big East team do I think should have gotten in? I like that Seton Hall team. I think Seton Hall would have been my first Big East team to make it through next. Then St. John's, and then Providence. Providence, who lost Bryce Hopkins early on in the season in January, were able to get some good wins, but weren't able to fully get it done in the Big East tournament. That's why I think may have hurt them a little bit. They're a great team. I think they would have ball out in the NIT. St. John's, weird one. Because the reason when they were even in the picture to begin with was because they beat Georgetown and DePaul. I don't know what you should get if you beat Georgetown and DePaul, maybe a free pizza at most. shouldn't be in the running for a March Madness bid, I'll tell you that. And that's why they were not in the first four out on Selection Sunday, according to the committee, which I'll be honest here, I think they got that right. I don't know if St. John's did really enough at all until like the last minute in order to try and even make it. I mean, they have a couple of bad losses. They lost to an 8-win Michigan team. There you go. That's all it needs to be said. So, the teams that I do like, let's now actually dive into the bracket, because now this is my time to shine with the bracket. This is where it's going to get laggy. Hopefully this works. Let's begin. So we're starting with the East region with a 1 seed UConn. They're beating Stetson. I'm not even saying anything else. They're winning this matchup. This will not be close. FAU Northwestern. Now, I really like this Northwestern team. They have a lot of talented guards. They know how to play a good, solid game. FAU is going to come in with annoying adversity for no reason, and I think they're going to be able to overcome the adversity and beat Northwestern. I really do like that Northwestern team, though. I feel like if they were playing in any other region, if they were playing like Nebraska, if they were playing a team like Mississippi State, a team like a Utah State, I think Northwestern would win. But due to the annoying adversity of FAU, I think FAU is going to win. San Diego State's beating UAB, who barely made it out of the American Conference. I mean, they did it and beat Temple on the last day, and then now they're going to get absolutely blown the hell out by San Diego State. I like Auburn over Yale. I think Yale's going to cause a little bit of problems, but not enough to really do anything in order to beat a team like an Auburn team. An Auburn team that is one of the better teams out of the SEC. BYU Duquesne. This was a hard one to pick because both of them could honestly make a ton of noise. I'm picking Duquesne. Now, let's look at the preview, because the preview actually breaks this down really well. The notes for Duquesne. They don't have any crazy wins. They lost to Nebraska, lost to Dayton twice. But then they beat Dayton later on, and they held off VCU to win. They're a good offensive team. Their defense is a bit average. I mean, they're both a bit average to me. But listen, I'm going with Duquesne. I'm going Illinois over Morehead State. I know a lot of people liking Morehead State for this, but I personally don't. I think Illinois is going to run the floor with them. I'm going Drake over Washington State. Washington State's another team that got underseeded. I don't like them at 7 as a 7. I think they should have been a 6. But that Drake Bulldogs team would cause a lot of noise in any other region other than this. So I'm going Iowa State in the next one, and I'll just say it now. Iowa State will beat that Drake team. I like that Iowa State Cyclones team. They can do a lot of things right. They won the Big 12. They did so many things right in order to even put themselves in the conversation to win the conference of the Big 12 to begin with. Back to the top here. I'm going UConn over FAU. My bad with the cursor there. I'm going UConn over FAU. San Diego State, Auburn, we're going to hold off for a minute. I'm going Illinois over Duquesne. I'm actually going to go with Auburn here, which asks the question, Robbie, you don't have enough upsets. Trust me. When we get into some of the later regions, that's where the chaos starts. This is pretty self-explanatory. This is the only one where I'm going to have a 1 versus 2. I'm picking UConn to go to the Final Four. Iowa State, I think, is, other than Auburn, would be the only team that would really compete with UConn. But UConn having players like Tristan Newton, Klingon, Caravan, Cam Spencer, they have so many talented players that they would probably beat everyone in this region other than Auburn and Iowa State by a lot. And I think UConn Iowa State will be a phenomenal Elite 8 game. So right now, off the jump, I have UConn over Iowa State. And they're going to the next round. East region's Final Four team for me in this bracket is going to be UConn. In the South, I'm going Houston off the jump. No explanation needed. I'm going A&M over Nebraska. Listen, Texas A&M have the capability of beating a lot of good teams. I think they can beat Houston. You'll see. I'll talk about that matchup more in a minute. But that Texas A&M team, the fact that they were even a bubble team at points, I think it was a little bit disrespectful. The SEC had a lot of parity this year. You have teams like A&M went far. They beat Kentucky this season. Like, they are a very good team. They get the matchup with Houston next. I think that'll be a very fun matchup to watch out for. I'm going James Madison here over Wisconsin. I think this is a very popular upset pick. That JMU team knows how to do a lot of things right. They can rebound well, score the ball great. Their free throw shooting, I believe this is the team that I remember from my notes, which I don't have in front of me, that couldn't shoot a free throw. They're going to be going up against Duke. Listen, if they do JMU, I think we'll go back and forth all day long. That'll be a very fun matchup, and a very fun matchup to preview in a moment. Going North Carolina State. They are going over Texas Tech. North Carolina State's a beautiful story. A team that started the ACC tournament on a Tuesday goes out and wins 5 straight to win the ACC, and they're a team with momentum. Texas Tech isn't. I'm going with the team with momentum heading into March. I'm going with North Carolina State. They're going to play Kentucky, a Kentucky team that has a ton of talent, top to bottom. I'll just name one guy off the top of my head with Dillingham. He's a very good player. Kentucky, a team that's absolutely loaded. Kentucky, NC State, though, I think will be a very fun matchup to watch out for. We'll talk about that game in a minute. Their next game, Boise State against Colorado. I'm just going to make this pick, too. I'm going with Colorado. They made it to the final ever Pac-12 title game and looked pretty good in the game against Oregon. But I'm picking Florida to beat whoever makes it out of that. They're going to play Marquette. Listen, Marquette are one of my fraud teams. Listen, I think a couple of the Big East teams, 2 of the 3 are on my fraud watch list. Marquette, Shaka Smart especially, does not know how to make it past the second round or even out of the first round. Florida's beating Marquette. Listen, Florida does have a couple of injury problems, especially in the big man department. But their guard play is so good. And we don't know the health of Tyler Kolek for Marquette. I'm going Florida beating Marquette in the second round to make it to the Sweet 16. They're going to play Kentucky. Listen, North Carolina State are going to give them a run. They rebound the ball well. They have a couple big players who can score, but Kentucky's talent is going to carry them through that matchup against North Carolina State. I'm going Kentucky over NC State. They're going to play Florida in the Sweet 16 in this bracket. On the top side, I'm picking Duke over JMU, though JMU is going to go down swinging. That's a very good team. Listen, I think they're going to cause Duke some problems, but at the end of the day, Duke's such a talented team that I don't think they lose this. And now this one. I've debated about this game ever since it came out, that this game was even a possibility. I'm going Houston. I don't like this pick. I think Texas A&M would have a good shot at upsetting Houston, but at the end of the day, I got to go Houston. Then Houston's going to be, whoever wins that A&M game is beating Duke and then advancing. I'm going to have Houston, and Kentucky's talent's just going to carry them all the way. I'm going to put Kentucky to beat Houston. Listen, KU versus Kentucky against Houston, I think, is a star-studded matchup. But Kentucky, I think were probably one of the best 3 seeds, if not the best 3 seed in the tournament. You're putting them up against Creighton, Illinois, and Baylor. Yeah, they're the best 3 seed in the tournament. I'm going with Kentucky. They're going to beat Houston. They're going to run the table and be one of the best teams in March this year. An experienced coach in John Calipari, a lot of young players, but this is what happens in these type of moments. The young players typically, it's their time to shine. And I like Kentucky advancing to the Final Four. To the West region in the bottom left, I'm going with North Carolina, of course. I'm going Michigan State. That's another team that people didn't like. Michigan State, the Spartans out of the Big Ten. Some people thought they were not even going to make the tournament this year, but that Michigan State team, Tom Izzo knows how to get it done in big moments as well. A very experienced coach. They've made it to Final Fours before. I'm going with Michigan State. I'm going to St. Mary's narrowly over Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is another weird one because what I've seen recently, is people love St. Mary's to go to like the Elite Eight or have Grand Canyon win this. This game has a lot of parity for a Friday night. I feel like Grand Canyon can do it, but St. Mary's winning their conference, I have to go with St. Mary's. It's for the culture. I'm going with St. Mary's. And I'm picking Charleston to beat Bama. What's defense? I don't think Alabama knows. They know how to score. They're playing a Charleston team that's solid on defense, and they know how to score. Charleston, I think, will cause a lot of problems. Will break a lot of brackets. I am going with the College of Charleston, the Cougars, to beat the Crimson Tide. I know the Crimson Tide have a lot of good players. Hear me out. They have a lot of good players. They do. But what happens when those good players face an actual good defense? You saw it in the SEC tournament. You've seen it throughout the year if you've watched college basketball. They get limited and can't defend. So I'm going with the College of Charleston. Next game, we have Clemson, New Mexico. I'm going with the Lobos. Listen, man, the Lobos are another dark horse team for me this year. New Mexico, they have a lot of talented scorers. It's also Rick Pitino's brother, so the coaching blood runs in the family. At least one of the Patinos made it, unlike Rick. But this New Mexico team has a lot of talent, and the guards, the good pair of forwards, they know how to get the job done. I'm picking them as an easy 11 seed upset over Clemson. Not my only 11 seed that I still have to pick to beat a 6. I'm picking them to go up against Baylor, the toothpaste team. Listen, if you've lost to Iona, you're automatically losing because Iona didn't even make the tournament this year. I am picking Baylor. Colgate are going to struggle. Baylor is going to be Baylor and win their first round game, and we'll see what happens following that. Now, the Mountain West is going to shine again. I'm picking Nevada over Dayton. I think they really seeded Dayton well, but at the end of the, I don't know if they deserve to be a 7. Nevada, a very strong Nevada team, good all-around group. I think they're going to go out and beat Dayton. They're going to face Arizona, who I think are also a fraud team. A lot of people like Arizona, but the problem with them is very simple. They either go to the Elite Eight or lose in the first or second round. Arizona, a team that's lost to clubs like Buffalo in the past, I think win this matchup. I think they lose to. I want them to lose to Nevada, but they're not losing to Nevada. They're not doing it. They're gonna face New Mexico in the Sweet 16. I think Arizona. This is their chance. If they face Baylor in the Sweet 16, they're going to lose. But they'll go up against a New Mexico team that's going to be riding high with a ton of momentum. I have New Mexico in my Sweet 16 against Arizona. Towards the top, I have North Carolina narrowly over Michigan State. Listen, Michigan State are going to cause a lot of problems for North Carolina, but I think the Carolina Tar Heels, with how much talent they have in the guard play with R.J. Davis, they have Armando Bacot, who's been there for like 80 years, it feels like at this point. I'm going to go with North Carolina. This one's tough because Charleston, listen, they're 27-7. They're going up against a 26-7 St. Mary's team. They know how to get wins. Both of them won their conference. This game is harder than it looks to pick. And this is where the weirdness continues for me. I am going with Charleston. I'm going to have a battle of the Carolinas at the top and a battle of the Southwest at the bottom. Listen, this Charleston group, they've been here before. They made it last year and played a hard-fought first-round game. They lost, but they were in it the whole way. I think they find, after last year's failure in the first round, I think they're going to rebound much better. I have Charleston advancing to the Sweet 16, where they're going to get absolutely decimated by North Carolina. They are going to face Arizona, or this is where I think Arizona destroys my narrative, which makes no sense, but yet here we are. Arizona is going to beat North Carolina. North Carolina, who I think have a chance to lose in the second round or make the Final Four. I'm going with the Wildcats here. Let's just click on the ESPN preview to talk a little bit more about North Carolina. It's Caleb Love versus R.J. Davis. Armando Bacot versus Umar Ballo. I have terrible names. But with Arizona, listen, they've beaten Duke, they've beat Wisconsin, they beat Bama. They did lose to Florida Atlantic, but that's not the worst loss ever. They made the tournament after all. UNC, who struggled with UConn, but they've beaten a lot of other good teams. They did lose to Clemson, but the analytics, they have Final Four potential, and they have two starters who scored over 2,000 points. I'm still going with the Wildcats. They're going to be my Final Four, paired up with UConn. Now the bottom right. I hate this region because I had two teams that I like that are Final Four caliber, and I can't pick both of them. Purdue is winning their first round game. I like Purdue. They're going to destroy their narrative because they're going to play TCU, a TCU team that I had a chance to not even make it at all entering this tournament. Next up, this is where my fun begins. I love McNeese State, ladies and gentlemen. I think a lot of the public should like this McNeese State team more. They're playing Gonzaga, a team that should not be a 5 seed. Okay. Now you're probably saying, Robbie, why the heck should they not be a 5 seed? They didn't win their conference. Heck, at one point they weren't even projected to make the damn thing. And they got a really weird seed being a 5 when they really shouldn't be. I thought they should have maybe even switched with South Carolina. I think they could have possibly switched with a couple other teams here. So it's a really forgiving seed, but they're not going to be able to take advantage. I'm going with McNeese State over Gonzaga. Kansas against Samford, a Samford team that knows how to push the pace, run the table against anyone. They're going to lose to Kansas. Kansas's experience is going to take them to the second round where they're going to have to go up against McNeese State. I love this Oregon team, man. Oregon. They're another good group that I think has a chance to go far. They won the Pac-12, the final Pac-12 tournament, by the way. They know how to run the table. They ran the pace. They know how to rebound really well. They showed it out that off against Colorado. They're going to go up against Creighton, who, listen, Creighton is a team like Arizona, where they have a lot of potential, but a lot of the time don't do anything. I'm going to be interested to see if they can split the narrative. I don't know if they do. We'll find out in a minute. UVA against Colorado State. UVA is going to play such a slow game. No one deserves it. I'm picking Texas. They're going to play Tennessee, who, listen, St. Peter's, the MAC is a weird conference, because listen, the only team that I thought was going to threaten Tennessee at all was Fairfield. Quinnipiac would have gotten decimated. But Fairfield's guards had potential. But then Fairfield blew it. And now it's St. Peter's going to the tournament. I don't think that St. Peter's repeats the magic from a couple of years ago. I'm going with Tennessee. Tennessee's going to win again. And then they're going to go to the Sweet 16. They're going to play Oregon. Listen, I know I love the 11 seeds this year. But one of them has to make it far. Hence Oregon. We saw how much Dalton Knecht can struggle for Tennessee. And we need something more random. We need an 11, like a crazy seed to do something. This is the chance. Oregon, a weird bunch, an 11 seed. They have a very good draw with Creighton. Creighton lost to teams that aren't even in the damn thing. Oregon, they've done that too. But Oregon knows how to battle adversity, I think, and Creighton doesn't. Tennessee, listen, they've found ways to lose to sleeper 11 seeds before. I'm going with Oregon. I'm going to go Purdue, and then this is a weird one. Will Wade, for those who don't know who Will Wade is, he's the coach of McNeese State. He used to coach at LSU, but then got fired for a scandal. He's going to barely lose, and then Purdue is going to beat Kansas. People don't like this Purdue team at all. They think it's overrated with Zach Edey. They don't have enough elite players. They're going to beat Oregon. They're going to go to the Final Four. So my Final Four is UConn, Arizona, and Kentucky, Purdue. I'm going with, despite this game being in Arizona, I'm going with UConn versus Purdue, and my national champion is Purdue. The last time a 1 seed lost to a 16 seed, they won the national championship with Virginia. All right. I think it happens again. The story is too perfect. This Purdue team, a lot of people think they're overrated, just like the last Virginia team, a Purdue team that did not win the Big Ten, just like that Virginia team that didn't win the ACC. The stars are aligning too well. I'm going to submit it. My national champion in 2024 are the Purdue Boilermakers, ladies and gentlemen. I know this video is pretty short. I wish I had a chance to go more in depth. So let's go more in depth to what matchups do people really like for upsets. Let's just give you a sample of a couple of them. Let's go back to what I have as like upset teams. You're talking about a team like a College of Charleston. You're talking about teams like New Mexico in the bottom left pocket in the West region. Nevada, another good one. Grand Canyon, some people like over St. Mary's. In the East region, in the top left section, you can argue for teams like Duquesne, Drake. Those are the only two I really feel like are upset teams. Top left, I don't think is going to have as much upsets. Bottom left and bottom right are going to be upset galore. That is my expectation. In the top right, upset teams to watch out for. I like JMU a ton. North Carolina State. Florida possibly down the road in the second round if they get matched up against Marquette, which I think they should. In the bottom right, you gotta love McNeese State. I like Samford too, but I don't think they get it done because they're playing Kansas. Oregon, another one I like. And of course, you gotta go. Listen, people are gonna put a lot of love on St. Peter's. I just don't think they get it done. So once again, my final four teams for this year's bracket are UConn and Arizona, and Kentucky versus Purdue. I have Purdue versus UConn in the national title, where Purdue destroys the narrative and gets it done in 2024. If you like my bracket, comment it down below. Also, I want to give a little bit of love before the end of the episode today because I did a bracket, all right, chat, where I asked all of my friends who don't know anything about basketball to make a bracket for me because why not? I thought that would be absolutely hilarious. So I think I had like 13 people help me out over the course of 36 hours, and we landed with a bracket of a national champion of Iowa State. So if you wanted me to, let's just break down their bracket real quick. Shout out to what the people wanted. My bracket made by my friends. The notable upsets they liked a lot. So what happened was I just DM people, can you help me with a bracket? They picked some upsets. Their final four was Gonzaga against Kentucky and Iowa State versus Clemson, which landed us with Iowa State, Kentucky, and Iowa State was picked as the national champion. I don't necessarily agree with them on that one, but listen, at the end of the day, no one really knows anything. But I think this tournament is going to be a ton of fun. I'm really excited. First games tonight at 6. It's going to be a fun day. First four, if you don't remember the games, it's Howard versus Wagner, Virginia against Colorado State, Montana State against Grambling State, and Boise State against Colorado. First games. First NCAA tournament game in the round of 64, I believe, is Northwestern. Is it Northwestern? No, it's Michigan State. I don't know. Let me just load that up for you guys. You see, this is why I don't know. Because sometimes, all right, you never know what's going to happen. So, Thursday, your opening game, if you want to watch it, is Mississippi State against Michigan State at 12:15. Games I like to watch out for on Thursday. If you want to stay up late, you got North Carolina State against Texas Tech and Drake versus Washington State. Gonzaga against McNeese State, my favorite game of the day, 7:25 in the Midwest region. Other early games to like 4 o'clock, I got Oregon, South Carolina. That's a beautiful matchup. BYU, Duquesne could be an upset watch as well on Friday. Some people really like the upset with New Mexico. They're at 310 on Friday. Other games, Nebraska against Texas A&M. A lot of people like both of those teams. I like to see how that one will go play out. 6:50 on Friday. You want to watch Bama versus Charleston, another good one. 7:35 on Friday on True TV. And one of my favorites, of course, Grand Canyon St. Mary's, the last game of the first round. It's at 10:05 on True TV. So I listed the brackets. I gave you games to watch out for, some upset teams, and a possibly very, very odd bracket. But listen, it's March Madness. Anything can happen. I'll be excited to see how it all plays out. And on that note, that'll be the end of today's episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tomorrow we'll go over NFL free agency and some MLB news with Blake Snell. All of those thoughts will be on tomorrow's episode of Into the Stands, so make sure to check it out using the link in the description to find WIUR Gale's YouTube channel in order to make sure to tune in tomorrow at 5 Eastern on WIUR. On that note, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long, enjoy the madness. I'll see you guys Friday. Goodbye, everyone.